What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Maybe you're listening later, wherever you get your podcasts. It's all good. We love it. All together now in the hood, etc. Right?
What?
I don't know. Ghetto Superstar. You know the song. It's a famous song.
Yeah. It's especially when you're doing such a great, easily understandable interpretation of it.
Well, listen, we have a packed show tonight with a slew.
Yeah, enough of your banter. Let's get down to business.
Incredible banter, would you say? Pete?
No, I would never say
I would
that.
also agree with that. It was very bad right there at the top. But we do have a couple of great guests. So many guests, in fact, that we didn't even have room for our co-host, Justin. We had to kick him off the show today.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But our first two guests are two of the writers behind the brand new Resurgence of the Valiant Universe. The first issue is out tomorrow. Let's bring them in right now. Fred Van Lente and AJ Ampadu. Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Excited to have you guys here. Fred, welcome back for, I believe, your 20th appearance on the show. I didn't actually count it. But...
I mean, that's close.
Feels right. Feels right.
Yes. And AJ, it's your first appearance on the show, but we're equally excited to have you both here to talk about this big event. So... little complicated leading up to this, but we had Ron Case, the amazing publicity manager. I'm not sure of his exact title. I'm going to call him publicity manager. Why not?
Sure.
For Valiant and Alien books. Over the past couple of months, things have been slowly building into this big event that's coalescing, bringing the whole Valiant universe together to fight against the evil Dr. Silk, among other things. I don't know how much you want to spoil or how much is out there, but what's the rough pitch for the book? What, if people have been away from the Valiant universe for a while, what should they know that's going to get them stoked for this?
So it's pretty straightforward. Dr. Silk has tapped into this isolated time-lost dimension called the Faraway that is something we created in my Archer and Armstrong run, that basically he's given everyone on Earth Armstrong's deathless immortality powers. So he's just removed death from the world. And many of the Valiant heroes are like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's support Dr. Silk in this. But then a bunch of other heroes are, he's like a weird mad scientist, arms dealer, psychopath. There's got to be a catch in here somewhere. And so they've kind of assembled to try and stop him. And then these two groups start basically having loggerheads at each other. A uncivil war, if you will. That's a term I just made up.
Oh, okay.
The uncivil
brand new
war.
for comics events. But we're trying to get almost every single Valiant hero and villain in there. We're hitting about 95%. I'm pretty proud of the number of people gotten in there. But then also AJ's doing some awesome work on like the ground level of beyond what the heroes and villains are doing, how the regular person in the street is affected by all this.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a kind of philosophical conflict, right? You know, what happens to the world when death isn't off the table. And we get to see how the heroes interact with this concept. But like Fred just said, I was able to write a character who gets to interact with it from the ground level, a normal person. And we get to see how just reality and society reacts to such a conflict.
Now, Fred, you've been with various iterations of the Valiant universe for a while now. What
2012.
What makes this different? Or is it kind of like bringing it back to basics, bringing it back to the same? What's your opinion on that?
So this is essentially, well, not essentially, it's the same version of the Valiant Universe that people have been reading and enjoying for over a decade now. But we're seeing a lot of storylines kind of culminate in this book, and it's definitely setting us up for a new era.
Nice.
Well, AJ, what about you? What draws you to the Valiant universe in particular?
Oh man, I remember reading the Valiant comics back in the 90s as a teenager, they were actually my favorite superhero universe.
Oh, wow.
So writing for these characters as an adult, become a complete full circle moment for me. Kind of like a dream come true. So yeah,
Well, congrats. That's awesome.
thank you. Appreciate that.
And AJ gets to write Shadow Man, which is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow Man's the best. I mean,
Is he? Okay, can you explain Shadow Man to me? Because I kind of get it. Like, it's a cool magical character, I guess. But AJ, what draws you to Shadow Man? I don't want to hear from you, Pete.
The Shadow Man, I call him the Sentry of the Shade. He essentially is he's a man who's been infused with the Shadow Lua. And what the Shadow Lua is, it's a spirit that's a part of the voodoo pantheon, and it's a vengeful spirit. It was cast out of the voodoo pantheon because he really doesn't play well with other luas. And what a lua is it's like it's a voodoo entity that can ride people. And I know that's a weird word for it, but that's the verb that actually they use, meaning that it fuses with someone's consciousness and they can give human beings powers. And in the case of Jack Boniface, he's been given the power of the Shadow Man. And he has to protect our realm, which is the live side, from the dead side, which is a realm full of supernatural dark creatures. And they're always trying to creep their way into the live side. So Shadow Man in a nutshell is he's a protector. He's a protector of our world from dark forces, and he's badass. Come on.
Yeah, he is.
So,
He's got
like,
one of the best designs in all superheroes, I would say. He's terrific.
I mean, like you guys are saying, and I've read a bunch of these books and read the issue that comes out tomorrow. I won't spoil any of it, but it's great. It's a lot of fun, particularly if you're a fan of these characters. Certainly, it seems consistent with everything we've read before, but to be honest, from a real-world perspective, Valiant has gone through different iterations over the years, like particularly in these intervening years. So what, if anything, not to get too corporate about it, but like what is the watchword here? Like Resurgence to me feels like it has a very specific, hey guys, we're back. So talk about that a little bit.
I mean, to sort of pull the curtain back a bit, I think that, Valiant, I mean, every comics company was a little affected by the pandemic. And I think that Valiant definitely, I was sort of working for them a bit right as the lockdown hit. And I think that they had a bit of a slowdown. And it's exciting to have so many people come up to me just because they know my association with Valiant, like, hey, Valiant's back. And I always have to resist the urge to be like, well, they never really went anywhere. They just, don't call it a comeback, right? Another phrase I coined. But they really reduced the number of titles they were producing. And so what's happened, particularly now, is Alien has come forward to sort of run the show, when they've been terrific so far, is they're ramping up again the number of titles produced. Obviously, there were a bunch of tie-in titles to Resurgence. I did an Archer Armstrong book and an Eternal Warriors book and a Darks book that was super fun. I know AJ did a bunch of stuff too for the dial-up, and now we kind of get to sort of basically. It's like kind of watching the time bomb tick down, right? And starting with the Resurgence #1, the bomb goes off. Awesomeness explodes out of it.
I definitely agree with that. I think the awesomeness explodes out onto the pages, but this is without asking for any spoilers or anything, but is this the sort of thing, since you obviously you're always trying to get eyeballs on an event or any comic book, but clearly there's this thing where like, hey, we've been figuring out this stuff, getting it back, and now we've got this event. How much of a focus is on trying to get new readers in the door here, specifically for this thing, through the story, through the behind the scenes? I guess that's what I was getting around to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's important for us to attract new readers while still letting our old readers still feel that their continuity is being continued. I think that was really important with the concept of Resurgence, because we didn't use the word reboot or anything like that. It was more of, hey, the storylines that you may have thought become stagnant, or we dropped them, we're picking them back up, we're bringing all the characters back, and come back onto the train, because it is continuing.
Nice.
And so, I mean, I know you can't really spoil what's going to happen a couple of months in the future, but this isn't a reboot. This isn't like a crisis style event necessarily, just more of a resurgence, if you will. Is that?
Well, it certainly starts out that way, Alex.
Oh, all right. Okay, fair
Yes.
enough. Well,
Where it's going, you're just going to have to pick it up and find out.
yes. Well,
Read
let's
the
actually
book.
talk about that a little bit because Comic Book Club, one of my absolute favorite websites, exclusively revealed this morning that not only are we having the 4 issues of Resurgence, but it's been popular enough that they're adding a finale issue that's going to
Yeah.
be coming up in January. It's shrouded in secrecy a little bit right now. They didn't give a lot of information about that. But what can you tell us, if anything, about that? Presumably that'll be like a coda to the event.
It's no, it's sort of what they, and so basically we've just been given more space to tell the full story and be super awesome. It's really more of a climax. I was about to use the phrase happy ending, but maybe
Yeah,
that's
let's.
no.
Yeah,
We'll cut that.
climax
We'll cut
was
that.
close
Yes,
enough. I think.
I know, right? That's it's too much word association there. But no, yeah, it's the story is so big, and we're trying to put in all the Valiant characters, or at least as many as we can. We just needed more pages, and Alien gave them to us, and it was fantastic.
And
So-
a good thing also in January, Shadow Man #4 comes out, which
Ooh.
leads directly into this final Resurgence chapter as well. So
And I believe the Bloodshot Resurgence,
Oh,
Bloodshot comes out in
nice.
January, which
All
is
the,
even
all the
more-
guys. All the guys are coming back. All of
That's
them,
right.
every single last one. Well, I mean, to that end, then, you obviously, there's a lot of folks working and a lot of folks moving around. You guys are writing on the first issue. Fred, you and AJ are writing the second issue, and then you're taking over for issue 3 and 4. But it sounds like at the same time, you're doing I don't know. I was about to say have fingers in a lot of soups. That's definitely not the expression there.
Definitely not.
Phrasing.
it is now.
Great. But what's the coordination like behind the scenes with everybody?
AJ and I just had dinner a couple weeks ago. We did a signing.
Aw.
If you're in Queens,
Bloodshot over brisket.
I know it was good. It was John Brown's Barbecue in Queens. Highly recommend.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Island City. Go check it out. It's very good.
Nice.
And I think communication is super important because when you have this many moving parts, if everybody isn't talking with everyone, also having done this at Marvel and Dynamite and a couple other places, the problem with these big events is everyone works at different speeds. So one person's on issue 3, other person's on issue 1, the other person hasn't even started yet. So it's like you kind of have to talk, otherwise you're all pulling in different directions. And disaster results, but
Yeah.
good so far.
This is a little unrelated, but I'm going to throw it out to you. A question here from YouTube, from Derek. Question for Fred. Really big fan of your comic book history of series. Are there any more of those in the works? Yes, there are, right?
Well, yes. I mean,
Let
technically,
him answer, Alex. Jeez.
No. I'll answer.
we just finished kickstarting Game Masters, the comic book history role playing games.
Oh,
So that is going to come out next year. The Kickstarter is over, but you can still, because Kickstarter now is a late pledges thing, you can still pre-order it through the Kickstarter page, even though the Kickstarter is ended. It was very successful. We got like 1,100 pledges. It was awesome.
Wow.
Thank you. It'll be different because this time I'm doing it with the great Tom Fowler, as opposed to the equally as great Ryan Dunleavy, because it was Tom's idea. So, had to
There you
tell
go.
Ryan.
Step back.
Also, Ryan thinks he's too good for role-playing games. So,
Oh,
Okay. It came out
one
at the
of
end
those.
there. Like, that's
Exactly,
what I
right?
thought, but.
it's Dungeons and Dragons 50th anniversary. So it seemed like it was the appropriate time to deal with all that. We begin in the 6th century and go up to Baldur's Gate 3. So
Awesome.
Oh,
Wow. Very
enjoy.
current. Love it. Well, cool. This is all good stuff. Before we let you guys go, though, what else do you want to plug? I'm sure we've touched on a bunch of the Valiant titles, but AJ, anything else folks should be checking out?
Well, I'm going to replug the Valiant stuff just because Resurgence
go
is
for it.
coming out. I definitely think you guys should check it out. I think it's a one-of-a-kind superhero event. There's nothing really like it out right now, comic book-wise, so I think you guys should definitely plunge right into it. Next month, of course, we have Shadow Man Soul Eaters #1, as well as Tales from the Dead Side. And a lot of people are hype about Shadow Man, but I don't want people to miss the Halloween special. We have Tales from the Dead Side because it's really good stuff. There's 3 Tales from the Crypt style tales that involve expand the mythology of Shadow Man and the Dead Side, and they're important to the overall Resurgence story. So I definitely think you guys should check that out. On my own personal tip, I have my self-published Space Cowboy comic, Kimmy Cosmic. We just completed a Kickstarter, overfunded it, but you can go to my website, earthtoneking.com, and you
right
can
here.
check it out.
Yeah,
Thank you
look
very
at
much.
that.
Yeah, he's the he got me over my goal, right? The perfect time.
Man, what a guy.
And then I have my horror book, Dragon Face, which is also available as well. And I'm working on a bunch of things for 2025. I'm really excited. So stay tuned and check out my website, earthtoneking.com. I'll throw it in the chat.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and
man.
Fred, anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I'll stick with the horror theme. Coming out in just under a month is my amusement park slasher, Murder Kingdom. The first issue is coming out from Mad Cave. Me and Chris Ponda on the art. It's a serial killer in not Disney World, where people are being murdered in the gruesome fashion of the original fairy tales.
But it's okay because they signed up for the streaming service, right?
That's right. That's right. Sadly, all issues were put to bed before that happened. Otherwise, that would have been in there.
Well, awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congrats on the book.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to reading the rest.
Pleasure.
Have a good night.
Stay valiant.
Stay valiant.
Nice. Same to you.
All right, there we go. Once again, the book is called Resurgence of the Valiant Universe. Issue number 1 comes out tomorrow. It's great. If you haven't been reading Valiant in a while, super fun. I definitely read it, and I've been picking them up here and there, but reading that issue, I was like, oh yeah, I like all of these characters a lot. This is great to see them all together. So highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
Highly recommend picking it up. Why don't we bring in our next guests now? Woo-hoo. They are the creators behind Greaser, Gemini Blues. One of them is with a baby, I believe. So I don't know if he wants to come in, but see what happens here. Let's bring him in. Darick Robertson and Stephen B. Jones and baby.
Welcome.
Hello.
That's Sadie. She's the cutest baby ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
For real.
He's eating that baby right out of there.
Oh man. I had all of my questions were for the baby. I'm sorry. So.
Oh man, so many baby questions.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. So Greaser, Gemini Blues, first issue is out. Second issue is coming out pretty soon. Or relatively soon, we'll see. But this is a great sci-fi book. If you don't mind me pitching the concept, correct me if I get anything wrong.
Do.
But takes place on Earth that's been mostly wrecked by climate change and radioactivity and other things. Aliens have come, kind of, but not exactly save the human race. And so what we're getting is a sort of like, I don't know. I would call it almost like Mad Max adjacent meets Alien Nation type thing.
Yeah,
is that sort of in the realm of it?
That's kind of there. Yeah, I'm playing on some older tropes, but I'm actually what I'm borrowing from is like colonization and the roots of that, because I love the concept of, you know, we all kind of are in love with the sci-fi idea that the aliens are going to come and save us. What if the aliens are actually like the original Pilgrims, and the one day that the Native Americans were, you know, on the East Coast were starting out their day drinking from the river and doing their hunting and building their fires and whatever they're going to do. And one guy rolls out to the coast and goes, "Hey, what's that?" And it was the Mayflower coming in, and they didn't realize like that was going to change everything forever. And they tried for a while, like, okay, you guys live over there, we'll live over here. Do you need any help? Well, let's trade things. Okay, well, let's make these treaties. And next thing you know, the Trail of Tears is happening. And they're like, how did we get here? You know, so it's more along those lines that the Gemini, and I'm not giving away too much. I think they kind of spell it out in the first issue, but the Gemini, they aren't what they seem, and the humans that remain are willing to sell out their own race. So, but then in the midst of that, there's this love story happening between one of the alien girls and our protagonist buddy, Dan Panosian did an incredible interpretation of on that cover you're seeing.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that we should probably clarify, and I should have said it at the beginning, but Darick, you are writing this book. You're not drawing this book.
Yes.
Steven is doing the art here. It's awesome. Just to get that out of the way.
Is there any way we could pull Steven's cover up?
Yeah, I think it's the next one.
There it is.
There we go.
Yeah,
it's great. These character designs are great. Love it. Steven, how'd you come on board the project?
Well, Darick and I have been friends since, oh my God, maybe George Herbert Walker Bush was president, I think is when we met. And then I did a few comics in the 90s when Darick was, starting out at Marvel and DC. And then I ended up getting into animation around 97 and was lucky enough to work on Batman, Superman, Batman Beyond, Justice League. Like my second gig in animation was working for Bruce Timm and all those superstars. Wow. So very, very lucky way to start off in the industry. And then for about 25 years, I've just drawn cartoons. But Darick and I have always stayed friends. We've always stayed in touch. Emerald City was kind of like our con for about 10 years. I think Darick and I saw Iron Man 1 at Emerald City.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, this is pretty good. I think they might be onto something here. And then I think about 5 years ago or 4, he's talked to me about this greaser idea before, and it initially kind of looked a little bit different in his brain. And then I only just found this out. So then Darick was in town for my birthday like 5 years ago, and to meet my my now fiance, and I had this artwork up on the wall that Darick hadn't seen, where I had done like my interpretation of Snake Plissken in Escape from New York, and I'd done it in this very cartoony style. And Darick was kind of like, like, I wonder if that could be kind of a cool way to go for Greaser. And so Darick's like, hey, I'm way too busy conquering the universe as an artist, but I've got about 500 awesome writer ideas. How would you feel about drawing this thing? And then I love the idea, but then I just was a little bit too busy with animation for a couple of years. And then I'm sure you guys have heard from, like the entertainment industry has kind of gone completely crazy in about the past 20 months, in terms of live action TV, cartoons, like everything's just kind of gone topsy-turvy and upside down. And so, but this has been like the thing of turning lemons into lemonade, where it's like, all right, well, look, for the first time in 25 years, I don't have an animation job, and this lines up perfectly. Like, why don't we just jump right into trying to get this going? And then thankfully, like the second group of people we talked to said we'd love to do it. So here we go.
Darick, for you, given that you are very well known as an artist, what is it like stepping into this different role, stepping into just the writer role without the art as well?
Ironically, I had just finished writing some graphic novels for an independent company for characters called Crestar and the Night Stallion. So I wrote a 90-page graphic novel for them and rewrote a couple of the issues. First, I just did the dialogue, but they were so happy with what I rewrote with the dialogue that they had me kind of like restructure and rewrite the third issue. And then I ended up writing like an original next 3-issue graphic novel for them, or 3-chapter graphic novel for them. So I was writing for other artists right before this got a green light. So I was wearing my editor hat and kind of art directing on that. So I kind of segued from that to this. And I started out my career writing and drawing Space Beaver way back in the day.
Nice.
Not that I would put it on my resume at this point, but, I did it. And I was just a teenager. So the fact that it got published, I guess, isn't so bad. But with all the things I co-created, I've contributed to the ideas and things like that as well. So it's not like I just get told what to draw. I also bring my own stuff to the party. So this is the first time that I was willing to let go of the designing and everything, and just kind of oversee or chime in. And Dave and Steven started bringing in this amazing vision for these characters from the beginning. I teased him because he put so much work into these bikers and as you can see on the screen here, they don't survive very long. So, like don't spend all that time. But that's something I would know that he might not. But it's
there's no small actors, only small parts.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, when the zombie spikers come back in issue 4, boy, won't I look stupid.
Yeah.
But no, but I love it because for me, it's like I get to flex a different kind of muscle. And as Stephen and I were having a conversation earlier today before we got on the call, but I was saying to him, like, we're both kind of paying our dues at the moment, like, because I'm not known primarily as a writer, and I worked with amazing writers, and Stephen's known primarily for animation. We're both kind of trying something different with this book, and I'm really proud of it and glad that Magma gave us a shot. And I'm only getting good feedback, so I'm feeling like we're doing a good job.
Agreed. I mean, one of the things that really stands out to me is a badass grandma, and this has
I love grandma.
I'm a sucker for a badass grandma.
I love her. I mean, she's such an interesting character because she. I was always a fan of the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know about you, but like, and there was a character on an old Hanna-Barbera. I'm really going to date myself now, but there was an old Hanna-Barbera show or cartoon. I think it was part of the Banana Splits called Hillbilly Bears. And both of them had like these badass pipe smoking grandmas with shotguns.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just something about it. I like those. I like those old women that won't take any shit. Like they're the ones you really got to be afraid of, especially like when the mama bear comes out, which is what happens with in issue 1.
No, I was drawing her yesterday, and I was saying to my partner Alicia, who just came and stole the baby, that where I'm like, man, I think I could draw this book. I enjoy drawing grandma so much. I think I'd draw the book even faster if it was just grandma. Like somehow grandma's just this collection of
more
shapes.
grandma.
But I'm like, is there an audience out there for us just drawing the adventures of a Pacific Island grandma? I don't know. I hope so. But that's what
I'm just hoping there's an audience out there for the book as is, Stephen.
Yeah, of course.
And just to clarify, in case people are listening at home and losing their mind, she didn't steal the baby from you. That's her baby too. It's not like someone just broke into your house and stole a baby.
We share custody of the baby. That is.
Okay, great. Okay, cool.
Baby stealer.
All right.
Yeah.
One person was listening to the podcast version 2 weeks from now is like on the phone with police. Was like, never mind. Never mind. I listened to enough of the podcast. We're good now.
They'll have to call Interpol.
Well, you touched on this just before, but you've got these elements of post-apocalyptic Earth. You've also got aliens, both from the art and the writing perspective. These are things that have been done a lot. Obviously, I think, having read the book, that you find a fresh, new way of doing it.
Thank you.
That sounds like a challenge to me when you're sitting down, when you're deciding we're going to do aliens, we're going to do post-apocalypse, to make it feel new. What iterations did you go through, if any?
Well, for me, it's like it's like I'm thinking of the characters more as allegories. And the other part that I like that we haven't really gotten to in the series yet is that there's a whole other life going on in the big cities that still exist on Earth, but they all live under biodomes now. So like what used to be Las Vegas is now under a series of biodomes. And if you have enough money, you can live in the biodome, and life is kind of like it is right now for most people, where you can have air conditioning and, they can grow and food and, grow food as in a lab. And so it's like, if you don't have the original resources, they have ways of replicating and cloning meat, things that were in our infancy in technology at the moment, but in probably 100 years from now will be kind of every day the way a cell phone is. And I think we're all on this call old enough to remember what life was like when the Walkman was a big technology breakthrough. So now, we have our Walkman, our camera, and we get on the internet and all through, here's the future, our cell phones or our iPhones. So, you think about how quick those things change and how easily it becomes integrated and normal. Well, in my story, in Greaser, it's like the aliens come to Earth, and it's a big deal when they first get here. 20, 30 years later, you're kind of used to them. This is a little bit more like District 9. It's like they're more of but rather than it being like, hey, we're here to fix everything, like there's a secret reason they can't leave. And we're kind of stuck with them as much as they're stuck with us. So the whole first arc is about learning to live together, and what really happens when the powers that be get together and put their heads together and decide who gets what and how much pie is left for people like Buddy and his grandma.
Yeah. Stephen, what about you from the artistic perspective, designing maybe the aliens in particular? What were the challenges there?
Me and Darick are good friends with this artist, Jeff Johnson, who drew Wonder Man in the 90s and Way of the Rat at CrossGen. Jeff and I actually created our first comic strip together in high school when Darick was drawing Space Beaver. So we all,
Wow.
and I feel like Jeff definitely helped. Like Darick definitely is the one that approached me, but I think Jeff was he's been a really helpful intermediary for us, because I feel like Darick's artistic style is so distinct, right? Like there's very few artists that you can really say that are in Darick's school. You know, like he has such a distinct vision of how he draws. And I think it's fair to say, like, it's a pretty dark, gritty way of looking at stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, I just like, if Darick's drawing Homelander doing something horrible to start, you know, like we're seeing like the pimples on his butt, you know what I mean? Like it's a dark.
That's the Mad Magazine fan in me.
Nice.
And I think it's fair to say, like, looking at my work on this comic, or if you look at my website or Instagram, you know, like that is not how I see the world. You know what I mean? Like I have much more of like an Archie Comics way of looking at the world, or, you know, or Scooby. I mean, I think my first half of my animation career was all these amazing superhero things I'm so happy that I got to work on. But then it's funny, I worked on this one cartoon that was kind of dark, and everyone was having so much fun. And I remember feeling kind of like Silver Age Captain America or Hal Jordan, like hanging out with the Ninja Turtles, where it was just like, man, I do not fit in this group. You know what I mean? Like everyone else is like, they're artistically the equivalent of like a rave, you know, and I just felt like the old guy going like, hi guys, you know. And my next job after that was Scooby-Doo. It was the first time I'd ever worked on Scooby-Doo. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot stop smiling. Like it's impossible to be unhappy drawing Shaggy and Fred and all those people. So it's like, I think what Jeff really helped me and Darick do is like embrace that our styles are so disparate. And I think it's what's creating an interesting synergy on the book, you know, is that it's kind of like, I just tried to not even think about how would Darick do this, you know, because I can't, if I, like, the funniest thing in the world would be if Darick tried to hire me to do finishes on his book, you know, like say, if Darick's like, here, you know, here's my, Steve, you ink it, you know, it would just be like, what the fuck? And vice versa. You know? So I think we just leaned into that. I think that, and so I've just tried to take the descriptions. I think the only time that Darick really kind of got the most involved in like design is with Alice, because he had such a clear vision of how he wanted Alice to look.
She
AI.
shows up at the end of issue 1. She's here on the cover as well.
Right. And even then, like I've still sort of, I keep sneaking in my own way of doing it more, you know, like, because I can only, I just can't do what Darick does.
That's Alice.
That's
Alice is the big head. She's an AI being. That's a whole other, that's a big chunk of the story. She's actually a major character. She just makes her debut at the end of the first issue.
We just need to hire Dan to do all of the art. And then
oh God, he's so good. That cover is so beautiful.
It's really good. But so I think that's kind of, I think it was just not being afraid to lean into and have fun with the fact that we are inspired by the Mad Max universe and all of the alien stuff. But then I think in just kind of giving ourselves, I just think that the strange disparation between our two styles is making it seem a little bit unique in a way, because it's kind of like, who the fuck would put, it's not like chocolate in your peanut butter. It's more like, you know, Marmite in your, and black currant jam.
Well, I gotta say, like, I think that's one of the things that appealed to me about doing this book with Steven rather than drawing it myself. And I'm doing the covers I'm doing a variant cover for each issue. So for each issue, you'll get to see what it would look like had I drawn it myself. But I love so much what Steven can do, because I don't think like he does. And I don't see things the way he does, but I'm also more experienced in comics than he is because he's been working in animation so long. So there's kind of a yin yang,
never
sweet and sour. It's just he's not very good at that.
There we go. It's
Don't
coming
tell
out.
him I said so. No, I'm kidding. But he no, but I like the yin yang, the sweet and sour of these two styles meshing, because I am telling a very dark story. And one of the things that I love about the Boys television show is that when I first got to talk to Eric Kripke, he was kind enough to ask me what I wanted the show to be like. And I was like, what? Great. And so we had a nice conversation. And one of the things I said, I go, it really needs to be funny, because if it's just the dark, abusive stuff, it's just going to be a long, hard slog and people are going to dial out. And he agreed. And then that's one of the greatest things about that show is it has laugh out loud moments. And even if they're disgusting, they're hilarious. And they all understood that when they took on the book. Well, that's kind of what's happening with this book. And that I think if I drew it, it might come off as more of like a horror movie than the sweet Romeo and Juliet piece that I want to come through. And that's like, as Steven said, his Archie and his Archie comics kind of edge brings that love and that cuteness to it. Like there's a sequence in the middle of issue 1 where we meet Kira, the alien girl, and Buddy and she have a conversation. And that's some of Steven's best work in the issue, because the expressions and the way they interact, it's so palpable that you kind of fall in love with them as a couple. You're rooting for them almost the moment you see Steven, put that look of love in Kira's eyes. And so I could do it, but it wouldn't be like that. It would be like Huey and Annie, in The Boys. And I think I would like, if I'm going to put myself out there as a writer, I'd almost like people to have to be thinking about me as a writer as opposed to looking at my work. That might, I think there are some people that write and draw their own stuff that where they get to this level of their career and they let the art kind of cover up for their mediocre writing. They don't write very well, but they draw great. And you'll pick up a book just because it's that person's artwork in it. But I've always written from a position of, if you're going to like my work, I will write out a whole script, even if I am going to draw it, and submit that to the editor for editing as if I wasn't drawing my own stuff. And I think in that regard, I've been building up my chops, and I want to be as good a writer as I am an artist. And I try to aspire to a high level of quality with both. So.
Just to completely contradict that, I do want to ask you about an art thing, just because Steven
mentioned
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You are going to be doing TMNT number 5. Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to plug that. Yeah, I figured you were going to get to the point in the conversation where you go, what are you working on now? And I go, I'm drawing an issue of Ninja Turtles with Jason Aaron, which is great because Jason Aaron and I wanted to work together for quite a while. And I've done a series of covers for them already and drawing the interiors of the issue right now.
I mean, you mentioned...
Oh, sorry, just quick question. You were just going to be doing issue 5, right? Like it's kind of an arch end.
There was
type
hope
thing?
that I was going to do more than that, but it didn't work out that way.
All right.
You mentioned some old school Hanna-Barbera love. Do you have like Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles love? I mean, when did you come online for the
Strangely,
Turtles?
I was around. I actually own a copy of Ninja Turtles number 1, which I hung on to. Yay, Darick. But I liked it. I thought it was funny, but I also kind of got the joke from the beginning. So I wasn't that enamored with it, like as many people around me were, because I thought it was just sort of a joke that kept running too long with the title. Because I recognized immediately when I saw it in 1983 that it was Teen Titans, X-Men, Wolverine, and Daredevil all mashed into this funny animal comic, a la Cat and Carrot. And so I thought that was great, but I didn't. And I still love Kevin Eastman's art. I just didn't think it was going to be a thing. Like it wasn't any more out there than Cerebus was at the time. And they had this Wolveroach character on the cover. So I just thought it was a parody that was going to come and go. I had no idea what a juggernaut it was going to become. And then I had the unfortunate timing in my young career, because I was just getting out of high school, of launching my own black and white book just about the time the whole thing imploded, because everybody thought the next black and white book was going to be another Ninja Turtles. Just didn't happen. So I've always liked the characters, and I've always liked the creators, and been thrilled for them, because I love seeing a couple of guys sitting around an apartment getting high and, you know, barely able to afford takeout pizza become multi-millionaires. You know, that's a love story you're always rooting for, or a success story, I should say. But that's and Kevin Eastman is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and just is so kind and grateful with his fans. So that part of it, like when they did come around and say, "Hey, you want to draw Ninja Turtles?" I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds like fun. And I'm actually having a blast drawing them. Now I love them in a way I never did before. And it helps that my friend Dan Hernandez and his partner Benji Samet just wrote the Mutant Mayhem movie. So shortly before that, I got to go see the premiere with them. And I thought their take on it made me love the Turtles all in a whole new way, because the personality that comes through with them actually sounding and acting like teenagers was really charming. And so suddenly I found myself enamored and excited to work on Ninja Turtles in a way I didn't think I would. But the people that have seen the work so far, just they're like, it was kind of like when I did Constantine with Tom Taylor. Like, wait, you've never drawn John Constantine before? There are people like, you've never drawn the Ninja Turtles? No, this is my first time. So it's funny that you can have a reputation for things you haven't done.
Yeah. I know we're going to have to let you go in a second, but I did want to ask Darick, just because The Boys is wrapping up with season 5.
Yeah.
We're getting the spinoff, the Vaught Rising spinoff. Gen
So
V
excited.
is continuing in some way. At this point, given all that, how involved are you? Or are you just kind of sitting back and enjoying the show at this point?
I'm sitting back and enjoying the show, only because COVID really screwed up my momentum being involved, because I was going up and being on set in Toronto, and I would have gone for every season if I could have, but when COVID hit, they locked down. And then even for season 4, I was about to go up and they had to lock it down because COVID broke out on the set in Toronto. So I haven't been able to be there and be as involved as I had hoped to be, but I have a good relationship with the cast and the showrunner and with Kripke and the people that are, work behind the scenes. I've been to, I go and celebrate with them whenever I can. We had a great time in San Diego Comic-Con. And, they're people that recognize me as soon as I show up. So it's not like I'm a stranger on the set or a stranger to the group. And they're very kind. And and in that regard, I kind of feel like I get to be like the happy mascot from afar. Like, and I'm grateful, but I'm not sitting in the writer's room or anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that note, and this is for real, my last thing that I'm going to ask.
Seems like it's not, though, because
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe
It's
there's
all right.
5 more questions. Given all the success and everything, obviously you guys said what you needed to say on the series, but do you and Garth ever talk about returning to it in some way?
No, I think that's done.
Okay.
I think Dear Becky was the final thing that anybody was going to do creatively. I'm actually really excited to look forward to doing some more creator-owned stuff, which is in the works right as we speak. So I have there should be some pretty big announcements coming out in the next month or two about brand new creator-owned stuff that I'm doing.
There's some
with
very
couple
cool stuff.
of great writers.
Yeah,
this is
Derek
the part
just
where
got
we
going.
ask for last plugs here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
nice segue there.
I can't tell tales out of school, but my old friend Tom Taylor and I have been talking. And we're pretty excited about where things are going. So
awesome. And Stephen, what about you? What else should people check out, if anything?
Well, I think for now, we just got to finish up this first arc of Greaser. So I'm pretty much just fully committed to that for the next few months. And then we'll see. Like we've talked a little bit with Magma on, will we do more arcs or not? We have to figure that out. Like I said, Darick has about 60 brilliant ideas in there, and there's two other ideas he's talked about that we might want to try to do that's creator owned as well. Dan Panosian, our great friend that has been nice enough to do covers, he's been getting into writing.
he designed our logo, designed Magma's logo.
Yeah, he and I actually put a pitch together at the same time that Darick and I put this pitch together, and then Greaser just got greenlit first. So we've talked to a couple different people at San Diego. That's something that could happen. And so I think for now, I mean, never say never. Like if an amazing animation job comes up, then that's always a possibility. But my partner and I just moved from LA to New Zealand, and right now I'm kind of loving just being able to be here and draw comics and swim. So
Awesome.
yeah, so we'll see. But I think all I can definitively say is we just got to finish Greaser and get it into a trade paperback. But I think Darick and I are I think Darick is loving that he can still be a full-time comic book artist and kind of do comic writing on the side. And now that he's realized that if he works with, friends who he likes, like I'm having a great time with Darick. I think working with Dan would be great. Like I'm kind of getting spoiled I feel like I'm starting at the top a little bit where I'm coming back into comics, drawing creator-owned stuff with friends. So again, never say never if Marvel and DC called tomorrow, but I think I'd rather just keep making up our own stuff and making a world from scratch and being able to, I spent 20 years doing character designs where you have to get them past a producer, a supervising director, a network, getting all these notes. Just getting notes from Darick is a treat. 9 times out of 10.
All right.
I'm dealing with it on Ninja Turtles, so it's like I'm living in the same kind of like it's got to go up the ladder before I can move forward. So
Yeah. Well,
when
awesome.
you're dealing with multi-million-dollar property, there's a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. The book
Yeah.
is great.
Hey,
Very excited to
congrats.
read the second issue.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All
Yeah.
right. There we go. Once again, the book is called Greaser, Gemini Blues. It's from Magma. First
Yeah,
issue is
check it
out now.
out.
The second issue is coming out sometime soon, so stay tuned for that. We got one more guest. She's been very patient, and we are huge fans of her, so very excited to have her on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Erica Schultz. Erica, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so
you for
much for your
hanging
patience.
I washed my hair and it's getting all unruly now.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for washing your hair. We appreciate it. I
Yes.
also wash my hair.
It's one piece. It's like, there you go.
Well, you are writing some of our favorite books right now, and I'm very
Yes.
excited to talk about them. But let's start with one of our favorite characters, and I'm going to ask this question in the worst way possible. But Hollow's Eve is great. We love Hollow's Eve, and something that we talk about whenever we're talking about an issue with Hollow's Eve is like, why do we like this character so much? And I think we know, I think we have a fair idea, but I'd love to hear from you. What is it about this character that's really popped and make her work and make her move forward through so many different titles?
I think the fact that she was kind of a dark horse, nobody had any expectation of this character. Nobody thought that this character would go anywhere. And then, her miniseries first issue goes to second printing. And then we get to continue in ASM's annual, and then she gets a one shot. So I think it comes down to the design, which was Ed McGuinness's design. I think it comes down to the way Mike Dowling, who was the artist on the miniseries and the one shot, did such a great job with her expressions, with her emotion. Julian Shaw was the artist on the annual that we did. And I think that it really comes down to the fact that she has a very different power set. And we played with that a lot. We played with this idea of, is Janine magical, or are the masks magical? If Janine is magical, then any mask would work. And I had this scene of her like breaking into like a spirit Halloween and like grabbing all these masks. But then when editorial said, no, it's the masks that are magical. It's like, okay, well, what would these masks do on other people then? How we see how the masks affect her, how are they going to affect other people? And when somebody else takes the mask, what is the consequence of that action? Just like we see the consequences of her actions in the first story arc. I also think that she's unapologetic, and she is slowly learning. I mean, she comes from a position of, she has to always be right because, a lot of her life has been about survival. And I think that the fact that, I think the fact that now she feels like she's in a decent place, she's a little suspicious of the fact that, the world isn't falling apart around her. So she's a little suspicious about it. But it allows her to be a little more playful, and that's what we're doing in Blood Hunters. With Robert Gill is the phenomenal artist on Blood Hunters, and this is the first time I've been working with him, so I really enjoy the experience. He's really great, and we get to sort of play around with her that way. The other thing is that the editor on Bloodhunters had absolutely no idea who Hallows Eve was. So the fact that like I was supposed to be like the expert on the team on Hallows Eve, I was like, ooh, I guess kind of throw my weight around here. It's like, no, this isn't how she looks, or this isn't how she would act, kind of thing. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the design from Ed McGuinness and the way Mike Dowling really incorporated that into that first mini that really set her apart. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea that she was going to, I mean, I see Hallows Eve cosplayers all the time now. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Because you never think that way. You know, you never think that a character that you put a lot of time into, that you're going to see somebody cosplay as. But yeah, it's awesome. A lot of fun, and she's a character that I really do love a lot, and maybe we'll see her weave in some other ways.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I just want to geek out a little bit. I really love your writing. You do such a great job with the voice of characters, whether it's on Bloodhunt or we're talking about Elektra for Daredevil. I loved Spawn Rat City. Like, whenever you're at the helm, I feel so well taken care of. Can you talk about like the fact that how do you come up with the voice? Because sometimes when somebody else is doing like Deadpool or something, the voice changes or whatever, but it always feels like you do such a great job of capturing the essence of the character and the way that they talk, and it feels different with different characters. Can you talk a little bit about your process or how you like decide what they're going to say or, those kinds of things?
Well, for a character like Hallows Eve, I had a pretty wide berth. Because she, even though she was part of that opening storyline for ASM, the Beyond Corporation storyline, there wasn't a lot that she was doing. And even prior to that, when she was in Clone Conspiracy, and it was JR and JMD Mateus who originally came up with the character of Janine Godby. She was Ben's girlfriend. She was, a waitress at a diner on the run, and she was Ben's girlfriend, so she didn't actually have a voice. So I had a lot of leeway with that. When it comes to other characters, writing, whether it's Laura as Wolverine or Elektra as Daredevil, I try and read as much as I possibly can, to see basically the personality of the character, and I try and match the cadence of their speech. I want to be able to read something that Chip Zdarsky wrote on his, when he was writing Daredevil and was writing Elektra as Daredevil, and then I want someone to be able to then read my book, come up and read the script for this, and just be like, oh, okay, it sounds like it's a natural continuity. I got to work with Mike Dowling again on Daredevil Woman Without Fear, which is great because Mike and I have now gotten to the point where we have kind of almost a shorthand. We've worked on, I don't know, close to 10 issues across different characters now, that we almost have like a shorthand, and he knows kind of where I'm going, and I know, no matter what I give him, he's going to make it look 10 times better than I could even thought. But yeah, when it comes to writing characters, I try and see what's been done before. And even if I'm not writing the exact same way as another writer has written in the past, I want to make sure that the mood, the essence of what this character is saying, the way they're conveying themselves, is sort of continuous with everything else. I think the weirdest thing about reading comics rather sometimes is that when you see a creative team shift, and everybody wants to put their own stamp on it, and I get that, and it's that is, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you're reading, like if you're on like the Marvel app and you're reading like a very long continuous version of some, a long continuous series, and you get to a creator shift, it feels like a creator shift. I kind of like to be able to tell stories that can live within the continuity of these characters, no matter where they are, no matter who's writing them. And, you know, when you're dealing with characters that are 60, 70, 80 years old, obviously there's going to be a shift. I mean, when you look at what Mark Miller did with Captain America when Ultimates was coming out, you know, versus the Steve Rogers that everybody had in their head. I mean, it was a totally different thing. But at the same time, they were branding it as this is something different. This is almost like Elseworlds, you know, this is a completely different version of Captain America. So of course he's going to sound different. He's going to stand on the, you know, on the hill screaming, "Get your asses out, ladies," you know, and everything, and screaming out the troops that way. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate the compliment. It's just a matter of, I think I'm just trying to do service to the characters. I think it's more about doing service to the characters and to the story than it is about me trying to write one way or the other. Or it's just the voices in my head. Who knows?
Well, either way, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do want to bring up, just before I forget, so every week on the show, we have a professional chef down in New Orleans named Brett Macris, who is great. He's awesome. He either curates or creates a cocktail for us. And this week, he created the Daredevil based on Elektra Daredevil because, as he says here, Elektra is my favorite Daredevil. Note it there. So the drink is tequila, Campari, Amaro Averna, and an orange peel. And he says, to be honest, I like Elektra's Daredevil more than Matt Murdock. So in honor of that, he created this drink. So there you go.
Thank you very much. I do not drink alcohol. I'm 15 years sober, but thank you very much for that. Yes,
Never mind. Take it away.
I appreciate that. I will have the blood orange and the little bit of seltzer, but no tequila for me, because then I turn into the Hulk. I don't want a phone call from a parole officer. So
yeah, good call on that. Taking that away and redacting that portion of the show. Just to talk about these characters, though, just because you brought them up, the one thing that I think connects Elektra and Hallows Eve is they're both former villains that are trying to do better and often falling back. It's definitely something that you're dealing with pretty heavily in your Daredevil run, and Hallows Eve, depending on the title she's in, you know, over at Amazing Spider-Man, she was back to being a bad guy and robbing people with Ben Reilly recently. This is obviously part of the problem and joy of comics, but how do you deal with incremental growth with these characters, given the fact that on a forever timeline, they kind of can't change completely. They can't solve all of their problems.
I mean, one of the things that it was funny because the Spider-Man editor, Nick Lowe, had said to me when we were working on the ending of that first miniseries, he had said, well, you know, and I mean, the miniseries has been out for at least a year now, so I'm not spoiling anything. But he said, you know, we should really make Simon stay a werewolf. And I said, why? And he said, because everybody loses in a Spider-Man comic always. And I said, no. Peter loses in a Spider-Man comic always. Not everybody. And if you think about Janine and the history that she has, she needs a win. This is the first time that she's acting heroic. If she doesn't get a win, she's never going to be a hero again. No. She has to have a win, even if it's a slight win. Simon doesn't win the lottery. He doesn't have all of this stuff. No, at the end, he gets to go back to his wife and his kids. It's simple, but that's all he wanted. And to him, that is winning the lottery. And it shows her that not everybody in the world is a total piece of trash. Mm-hmm. So she needed that win, because then otherwise, what's the point? You know, I tried to do something nice. Everybody, you know, it still didn't work out. Screw the world, you know, flip the desk.
Yeah.
So that was something that I try not to argue with the editors because I'm a freelancer, you know, I got a mortgage. But at the same time, I thought that was something that I wanted to make sure. I was like, look, I'll do it if you pull rank, but I don't think it's a good idea for the character going forward. And it ended up being the right call. Because then she wouldn't have gotten the ASM annual. She wouldn't have gotten that one shot, the Halloween one shot. Yeah. We wouldn't have been able to pull her into Blood Hunters, you know, because she would just be off on her own, you know, robbing banks and doing, whatever with Ben. So.
Just another question about Blood Hunters, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Maybe this isn't the first time you've done a team book, but certainly I think we know you better for solo work. What is different about tackling this team here in this book?
Well, I mean, to Peter's point, the idea of trying to make sure that everybody has a very unique voice. I mean, and that comes down to cadence of speech. You've got Elsa, who's a Cockney. You've got White Widow, who has not broken English, but very, very formal English. And to a certain extent, she almost inverts things. You have Hallows Eve, who is just like, look, I'm just here because I don't want to die. And then you've got Dagger, who has had her own sort of arc as, there was a time when she and Cloak were running around killing, drug dealers, and really just like almost like Moon Knight vengeance kind of thing in New York. And so you see all of those characters sort of bringing together. But out of all of them, the true hero, in quotes, really is Dagger. She was the one that was on teams. She was part of the X-Men. She was, all of this. And she's the one who's trying to be like, all right, guys, can we just like try and get along a little bit, please? And then I mean, issue number 2 is already out. Yes. Issue number 2 is out. Yeah. So then we have, a new player who has started to soften Elsa a little bit. Moggy the Vampire Cat, who's this random street cat who all of a sudden becomes part of the group. Originally, she was only going to be in 1 issue, and the editor was like, no, let's keep her around. So Moggy is now canon. I'm very excited about that because she is based on our old cat Kara, who passed away in February. So we have, thank you. So we have Moggy as immortalized.
Nice.
I set up a Dropbox folder with, if it was a real folder, it'd probably be this high with photos of Kara for Robert Gill. And I said, please don't think I'm a crazy cat person. And he goes, oh no, I've got 2 cats myself. This is totally fine. So yeah. So, I mean, and that's sort of the little comic relief. And there's a back and forth between Miles and Elsa. They have obviously a disagreement about things. But Miles sort of feels a little jealous of the cat every once in a while and brings that out. But I mean, with Miles, I mean, his voice is very well established. So I read I read Bendis' stuff, but I also read Cody Ziegler's most recent work on Miles to really be able to hear his voice and what we're putting in this book, make sure that somebody's going to read this and go, yeah, I could totally see Miles saying that, versus, yeah, this doesn't sound anything like the other book. And I mean, and that's just, like I said, I mean, that's just sort of my goal is to do no harm, I guess, for the characters,
Well, what about something like Spawn Rat City, where yes, you are playing in the Spawn universe, but you're doing something that's so far in the future, you're not taking those same characters. You're playing with something that is essentially fresh and new in a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, and like Hallows Eve, that gave me a big wide berth to be able to turn around and work with Jay Carlos, who's a phenomenal artist. And really, going back and forth on Peter's design on that was really great. And it gave me the opportunity to really create a new character. And even with Quinlan, who is a major part of Rat City as well, create a new voice for the character, but also to be able to show Spawn in a completely different light. I think that there are a lot of people that have an impression of Spawn and the comic in general because it came out from the 90s, and we all know 90s comics is like a trope. Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks are doing Local Man, which is just bounces off of that. I mean, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant book. And it just sort of leans into all of the worst things about 90s comics. So I think there's a lot of people that don't really want to give Spawn a chance because they think that oh well, it's just 90s comics crap. Whereas if they actually sat down and read, you see such a huge transformation from Al from issue number 1 to now. I think we're at 356 for the main Spawn line. You see a huge transformation in Al as a character, as a person, as a hero, as an anti-hero. And so I wanted to look at, and I have all the omnibuses. I've read up to 315. I'm a little behind, but I've read up to 315. And I want there to be similarities between Peter and Al, but I also want there to be Al is always Al. And I think the main thing is that Al was always a cynic. Even before he became Spawn, he was always a cynic. Whereas Peter, also being in the military, Peter had a hopefulness. He started out with a hopefulness that slowly deteriorated into cynicism. And we see that deterioration. And then, and I hope I'm not giving anything away, but after the death of a close friend of his that we see in an issue, Peter has to find that hope again.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that Al sort of leans into, the cynicism, and that makes him a different character, because I know everybody was like, oh, here we go, another Black Spawn and this, that, and the next thing. I think they really are two very different characters. Yes, they were both, in the military. Yes, they both did some, pretty messed up things while they were in the military, but their view of both things, of their view of their actions, are very different. And how they reconcile with their actions, I think, are very different. Also, Peter's not dead. Peter isn't a Spawn. I know it's Spawn Rat City, but Peter technically isn't a Spawn. Mm-hmm. He's not dead. His Spawn suit does not come from a necroplasmic, the necroplasmic suit that's within him. The Spawn suit comes because when Al detonated the necroplasmic detonation in 300 and 301, that detonation, that shockwave, had Al's energy, it had heaven energy, and it had hell energy. And that shockwave went across all space and time. And it was the essence of that shockwave that infected the nanites in Peter's legs. And we see little by little, as the story is progressing, you see that Peter's not the only one who was affected by this. Mm-hmm. So everybody's like, oh, but he's a Spawn. Yeah, technically he's kind of a Spawn, but he's known as the Deviant. Mm-hmm. He's not known as Spawn. So
let's talk about another character that's kind of taken off of another character, but is in fact entirely different, which is Laura Kinney, the Wolverine, which you're going to be writing. Very exciting. That's coming up in December, I believe.
December 11th is when issue number 1 comes out. Yeah.
Nice. So what can you tell us about that? Obviously, Laura is showing up in NYX, but this is her solo title. Is there going to be some coordination there, or is she very much off on her own solo adventure?
We have conversations on the X-Men Discord. And it's funny because before, when I was in the waiting room here, my phone pinged and I looked and it was somebody asking, is anybody using this character? And, we all chime in. Nope, they're clear. Or, oh yeah, they're going to show up in issue number, whatever. But Laura, I was very lucky to write Laura last year with the X-23 Deadly Regenesis. And that was sort of a flashback for her. We wanted to flesh out more of her backstory, which was basically between issues number 4 and 5 of the 2012 run. And because at the end of issue 4, beginning of issue 5, she ends up going off with Gambit for a while. Mm-hmm. And they not like that. I mean, he's a player, but not like that. But she ends up going off with Gambit, and they have like an adventure in Madripoor and everything else. so we wanted to flesh things out a little bit more. We wanted to add some rogues to her gallery. She's always had Kimura. She's always had Kingpin. She's always had the Facility. And then so we wanted to add a little more to that with Haymaker. And it was interesting because she, at the time, she was still basically coming out of her shell. It was during the Utopian era and everything. And she was pretty much scaring all the ex-teenagers on Utopia. And, but she had a very robotic way of speaking because she wasn't used to having conversations with people. You know, she spoke multiple languages, but she wasn't conversing with people on a daily basis. She wasn't finding a rapport with others. And so her cadence of speech was very robotic. And I know I got a little bit of flack for that from fans. I also know that when they announced it, some people were like, why are you demoting her to X-23? She's Wolverine. I'm like, I don't have any control over that. I'm really sorry. I'm just hired to do a job. So I got to work with her on that. And I loved the character because I really did love X-Men Evolution. And she was created for X-Men Evolution. And like Harley Quinn, she was brought in, and like Morph, she was brought in to the comics after the fact. But working with her as Wolverine, she's a lot more, now that the series is taking place now. So it's post Krakoa. She has been I almost said resuscitated. I meant reincarnated. Talon has now passed. The relationship with Sync is over, and she's got a lot on her plate. And the way we're looking at it, it's myself, Giada Belviso, and Rochelle Rosenberg is going to be the colorist. The way we're looking at it is, here's this 21, 22-year-old woman who is basically starting from scratch in the big bad city. And I've been that woman. I got my first apartment in Brooklyn. I started working in Manhattan. I think it was 21 or 22 when I started working in Manhattan. And there's a lot of things that she has to contend with. And it's not just a matter of being a mutant, because on that end, she's very lucky. She passes for human. She doesn't have to worry unless she consciously pops her claws. Nobody thinks anything of her. So she doesn't have to worry about that. At the same time, she has to worry about who she is, finding herself again. There was a camaraderie to Krakoa that is now blown up. There are some people that she hangs out with NYX, but she still keeps everybody at a distance. It's to a certain extent, Laura thinks she's better than everybody else because she is. But at the same time, she also feels like such an outsider no matter what. And even with Logan, she feels like an outsider because Logan at least had a normal childhood or normal-ish childhood, whereas Laura didn't. Before Logan's abilities started manifesting, he was a normal kid in the late 1800s. Yeah. Whereas Laura was literally born in a laboratory, so that was specifically done to her. So she's got a lot of growing up to do. She's on one hand, she is so mature beyond her years, and on the other hand, she is so socially and emotionally immature. So she has a lot to learn. And one of the things that I had requested is that I said, look, this is a 21, 22-year-old woman finding herself in the big bad city. She's got to navigate being a mutant, doing the things that she needs to do. And basically being a woman in the city is kind of a precarious place to be. No offense to you two gentlemen, but guys can be kind of gross. Oh, and so I had said, if we're going to show this story of Laura, then we need it to be from a woman's perspective. I have an all-male editorial team, and they're great. Cy, Drew, Mark, they're phenomenal. But I think women draw women differently. I think women write women differently. And I wanted to get that together. Like I wanted to have that sort of whole package. Giada Belviso and I had worked together on a short for The Women of Marvel, which was out earlier this year. It was a Black Widow short. And she was phenomenal to work with. Lovely, lovely artist. And when they said, would you like to work with her again? Absolutely. She's lovely. She's very enthusiastic. Every text I get is, I'm just trying to do my best. I'm like, and you're doing really great. It's okay. You're doing a great job. But she's lovely, and we've had a lot of great conversations. And there is a pathos that she brings to Laura. And it's funny because Laura is this like hard-edged character. She literally has knives in her hands. But there's this pathos that she has. And there's a little bit of mischievousness, or whatever that word is, that she has. So the idea behind this is to show Laura growing up, and to also, Laura has this sort of might makes right kind of attitude, and she will learn through these pitfalls that doesn't always fly in certain situations. I'm finishing up the script for issue number 5 now, and I already have my next the next storyline for 6 and 7 and 8 in the brain, but I just have to get down on paper and get it approved.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Well, listen, I know that's a lot of stuff that we just talked through there. The other thing that's coming out, though, is Venom War. Venomous #2 comes out tomorrow,
Yes.
I believe.
Luciano Vecchio. It is an embarrassment of riches, the phenomenal artists I've been working with. I'm so lucky. Honestly, I'm so lucky. The talent is just mind-blowing.
That event is crazy, and without blowing up any spot about the issue, you've got Black Widow now in her symbiote suit, you've got Flash Thompson, Anti-Venom, you've got zombiotes. Is that how Zombiotes are wandering.
I think that's
the
how you
city.
pronounce it. I've only seen it written.
Yeah, I keep pronouncing it a different way just so I can kind of cover all my bases. What's it like coordinating with that event in particular?
It's insane. I mean, I've done crossovers before, and with I did Daredevil Gang War earlier this year. Mm-hmm. This event is so intertwined. Like the whole 3 issues literally takes place in 40 minutes.
Wow.
It's really crazy. And like, I'll send off my outlines to Jordan, who will coordinate with Al, who's coordinating with Torin and with Kevin and everybody. And it's just insanity. Like I was halfway through a script and I was like, good, everything's done. And all of a sudden I get the email, and you're like, oh crap, what happened now? And it's, you can't do X because in Al's story, that doesn't get revealed until the following week when his book comes out. So and I'm like,
oh wow.
But what's the conclusion of my story then? I'm like, look, the last 4 pages of my story. Now I got to figure some other weird crap out. But yeah, I mean, it is so intertwined. Like I remember being on like a 2-hour Zoom call with Al and Tom and Jordan, and just sitting there, and like we're all just like riffing, like just anything that comes to mind, and Tom's cat keeps like jumping up on the table the whole time. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Venom War is insane. I will say this, Eddie Brock in his boxer shorts, originally he was supposed to be nude.
Oh really?
Oh, wow.
Because I made this joke, I was like, what's with Eddie walking around in his drawers? And someone's like, oh, Eddie was supposed to be naked the whole time, but they told us to slap some boxers on him. I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
So just, use your imagination, kids. Yeah, it is wild. It is like every symbiote that has come out of the woodwork, and there's so many. I've lost count. And somebody was like, oh, well, are you using blah, blah, blah symbiote? I was like, you just made that up. There's really not. That's not a symbiote. No. Oh, there is. Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. It's absolute insanity. There's a scene that I wrote. that I thought that they were going to say you're nuts, because it's like, it is a horror-esque moment. And they're like, no, it's great. Let's do it. I was like, oh my God, this isn't even a Red Band book, and they're letting me do this.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff. And Luciano is just, he's channeling John Romita, like the old school look of Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
In this book, and it looks so good. Everything just looks like a pinup from, you know, some like 1960s Vogue. I mean, it just looks so good. And you know, as Sliver versus Widow versus Natasha, and there's this thing that he does with her hair when Sliver is in control. The hair's like really like wacky and everything is sharp. And when Natasha's in control, everything's more smooth and like lithe. It's he's phenomenal.
Wow.
Like I said, I have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the amazing artists I get to work with.
So, like I said, that's a ton of stuff you're working on, but is there anything else that you would like to plug? Anything else folks should be checking out?
I made a list. Okay, so Blood Hunters, the miniseries, is out. Blood Hunters number 3 will be out next month. Venom More Venomous number 2 will be out tomorrow. Daredevil One Without Fear 3 comes out tomorrow. Spawn Rat City 6 comes out tomorrow. Wolverine number 1 is in December. I will be at New York Comic Con. I will have all manner of things. I'm making these like little packets of like all 6 issues of the first arc of Rat City in a nice big fat, you know, envelope.
Cool.
Spider-Man Black Suit and Blood is out tomorrow too. I totally forgot about that one.
That's right.
Wow.
You got a lot of stuff, Erica. You have a lot of stuff going
this
on.
Year. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I blame it. I said it, you know, my husband was out of work for a while, so I just said yes to everything, and now I have realized my limit. Writing 7 books a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we're loving it, even if it's
thank you.
taking you to the limit.
Even if I'm absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, even if you're miserable, we're doing great. So it's good. Seriously, though, congratulations on everything. It's all
Thank
great
you.
stuff. Can't wait to read what else is coming next from you.
Thank
Thanks so
you
much
very,
for coming
very
on.
much. All right. Be well, guys. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Have a
too.
good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, so many things to plug there, but just to
Yeah,
mention a
wow.
couple, check out, like you said, Spawn Rat City is coming out tomorrow, Blood Hunters, Venom War Venomous, and all the rest. And there we go. We are going to move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question in the comments, and we will answer it. That's how questions and answers work. There you go. Pete, you are no longer on Landshark, right? You're
That's
drinking
correct.
something?
Yeah, I don't have a garage, but I'm drinking garage beer. You know what I mean?
Nice. I'm drinking a little something called water.
All right. Everything okay on your end?
Yeah. Just I like water and I was thirsty, so there you go.
Okay.
Got some questions here. This is from the big random question. I know how much media y'all consume and have just binged it myself. I was wondering if you guys were fans of the CW show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. We loved it. Thoughts? Pete, I definitely have thoughts. Have you seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Not in a minute.
I love it. If you haven't checked it out, for anybody who hasn't checked it out, it is a musical show that was on the CW, per the question here. Starred Rachel Bloom. It is great, hilarious. The songs are insanely catchy. Definitely recommend checking it out. And it was a couple of episodes were written and directed by Rachel Bloom's husband, Dan Gregor, who was in a comedy group called Wicked Hammercats back in the day with
and
Donald
Matt
Glover.
Donnelly's wife, Sarah,
Oh, that's right. Sarah Lowe was the choreographer.
One of the Apple sisters. Yeah, she's the choreographer for the show.
So we have a bunch of comedy connections to that show as well. But even irregardless of that, great show. Track it down.
Yeah.
Love it. There you go.
Worth it for the dance sequences alone.
Yes, and despite the name is on purpose. Like, it's playing off the trope of the crazy ex-girlfriend, because she follows this guy to a place called West Covina in California, but it's really about therapy and healing and growth, and it's very smart and very funny, as well as being a musical rom-com. All the Game says, what do you consider more shocking? Furiosa not grossing $175 million worldwide, or Inside Out 2 grossing almost $1.7 billion?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into hot takes here, but I saw Furiosa and I was like, oh, all right, yeah, wasn't that?
That's not a hot take. That's sort of like a medium take at best.
Yeah, okay.
It's like,
I mean, if somebody loved it, I don't want to slap them in the face. You know?
Here's what I'd say about it is Fury Road didn't do spectacularly in theaters, and obviously it's built in reputation over the years, but none of the Mad Max movies have killed it in any particular way. I think Beyond Thunderdome did the best because of Tina Turner being in it. Could be wrong about that,
I mean,
but
it's Tina Turner.
There was no reason to think that it was going to crush it at the box office, but it'll have a good reputation going forward just because people like George Miller and it's part of his filmography, even if you didn't like the movie itself. Inside Out 2, families want to see movies. I am a little surprised how much it grossed, so to answer the question, probably surprised.
I mean, is Lewis Black still in it? Because otherwise,
he is,
of course,
but they got rid of Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader.
Oh,
because they wouldn't pay them enough.
I mean,
they probably should have. They have enough.
First one was a crier, dude. That was
yeah. I'm just surprised because it is like it's a blockbuster movie about getting inside a little girl's head. That doesn't seem like the sort of thing that's going to make $1.7 billion. But I think there was a pent-up demand there to see a Pixar movie in theaters. So there you go.
Agreed.
This is from Stanley. Are you excited about The Penguin and Agatha all along?
I'll tell you what. I'm getting more and more excited for Agatha all along. The Penguin, I feel like, is going to be good. So I'm looking forward to that. The more stuff I see with Agatha all along, the more excited I'm getting. So, yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I've seen the first 4 episodes of Agatha all along, Pete.
Oh, you Eliza Dushku.
I don't know that. Bring it on. Is that what you're asking me to do? Okay, here we go. Faith, you have faith in me? Is that what you're talking about? She was Faith. I see. That was not what I thought you were doing. Anyway, you probably don't want to know anything about it, right, Pete?
You're damn right.
Okay, take off your headphones. Yes.
Okay.
I could just give I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I could give just like an overall opinion.
There we go.
If you want.
You could not ruin anything and just...
I loved it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I had a great time watching it. Perfect witchy Halloween vibes. Catherine Hahn, amazing.
Yeah.
Aubrey Plaza, somehow even more amazing.
The
two of them together. Oh, mama. Come on.
Yeah.
It's great.
What time to be alive.
Had a lot of fun. I was very surprised to see some of the other reactions online. There seems to be and this may not surprise you given the way culture works, but a little bit of a gender divide here where I've seen the women I know posting, I love this. This is great. This is my favorite show of all time. And I see men being like, it's okay. So I'm obviously on the wrong side of the gender divide here, but at the same time, I think it is going to be one of those. Ignore all that stuff. Watch it. Enjoy it. It's sharp. It's funny. Highly recommend watching if you've completely forgotten WandaVision and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Highly recommend rewatching or just refreshing yourself on those because it picks up right after that and goes right into it. So it's not like, here's what you need to know or anything.
Well, I mean, that's where Wanda last was. So, yeah, it's good to refresh yourself.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it's been a couple of years. So
it sure has, buddy.
That I haven't had a chance to watch The Penguin yet, but I'm hoping to watch it soon. I got the first episode, but I got it late today. So I have not been able to watch it yet.
Man, you really haven't had any time today.
I have not, but there you go. Yeah. This is All in the Game says, checked out Slow Horses yet? Pete, I know you have.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was so pissed Justin wasn't here so we could geek out about it. It's been glorious. The first episode is a banger, and it got me, and I was like, what the fuck? But been so happy with how it's been going. Man, it's such a crazy... It's nice to see it get some Emmy attention because it's been really impressive from start to finish.
This is from Schweikler. Last week, Marvel released images of their Thing variant covers. There were 3 Spider Things, but no Thing pool. Which characters would you like to see Thing versions of other than Man-Thing?
Yeah, I mean, Wolverine and Thing.
Had one of those. It was very sharp. The Wolverine Thing, all of his rocks were spiky.
Wow, that's too many spikes.
It weirded me out.
Yeah, it's too many.
There was a Dazzler Thing. There was a Phoenix Thing. The Dazzler Thing was fun. He looked like a mirror ball for his rocks.
Yeah, walking disco ball. Come on, man. Put a leisure suit on him. Come on. I mean, let's
I don't know. I mean, here's. I was about to say, here's the thing, but all of that stuff. Like, there was something weird and uncanny about it in general. Where I was like, these characters. Uncanny. Thing, Silver Surfer. Sure, that's pretty good. Thing Galactus. Why not? Oh, Edward says a Groot Thing. That would be a Groot thing indeed. Why don't we wrap up with this? Stray Bullet says, we know there's a few new secret quizzes floating around, so I'm wondering if the phrase to unlock the secret quizzes has changed.
No, I have not changed anything. I'm waiting for people to maybe get my hints. I'm showing you keys to unlock it right there. All you have
is
to
the
do.
Phrase keys?
Nope.
Oh, I thought maybe you were doing
Please ignore the lock and key right there. There's another hint.
All right. Well, there we go. That's it for your audience questions. Woo-hoo. We are going to move on with trivia, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Pete LePage.
All right. This is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free dollars to Midtown Comics online, because if you had $25, you probably want to go to a comic book shop. You know what I mean? So all we need is a brave volunteer, and you will win $25 free dollars.
Easy Reader says, pick me.
All right, Easy Reader, we will.
Okay, there we go.
All right. So here we go. Today's trivia is about the impressive comic book series Concrete and a small nod to the legend James Sicking, R.I.P. Captain Styles. All right, please listen. I'm sorry?
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
Well, I think you did if you did a little Googling. Pretty
sure,
famous.
I'd know a lot of things if I did a little Googling, but I'm asking you, the person who is purporting to know.
Well, it's excuse my pronunciation, but it's Sikking, if that helps you out.
Sicko?
No, I don't know why that got weird for you, but all right. Anyways, please listen to all 3 options before making your selection. Here we go. Question number 1. Yes, the writer is also the artist. So cool. What is his name? Is it A, Paul Chadwick, B, Hey Blondie, Stop Punching Dudes Out, C, Maryland Rockefeller?
Schweikler, of course, says he was the dad on Doogie Howser and on Hill Street Blues before that.
That's right, the Schweiks.
There we go. To be clear, not A, Paul Chadwick.
Well, that's the answer to the question.
Yes.
Yes, A, Paul Chadwick, yes.
Do you feel like maybe there's some inherent confusion in terms of what you're doing with trivia, perhaps?
No, I don't appreciate the question. Here we go. Question number 2. The Concrete series focuses on blank. Is it A, realism? B, wow, cool phone. What is that, rose gold? C, rose wool.
Rose wool?
That's right.
These are real people, you know.
Yeah, I know.
With families and loves. And
hey, I'm just giving them a shout out. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Easy Reader is correct. It is A.
There
Here we go. Last one. Yes, Concrete has won many awards, but who published the comics? Is it A, Dark Horse? B, I'm sorry, did you just say you're a horny city? I just asked where you're from. C, Randy Detroit.
Seems repetitive if you ask me.
Huh. Why would you say that?
Have you ever been to Detroit? Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Come on.
I have. Have you?
I have not.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Detroit, definitely known as the horny city.
Detroit's glorious. I love Detroit. I was super impressed with it artistically. And
Did you go to Mom's Spaghetti?
No, but they love the Coney Island dogs over there, so I got a lot of glorious dogs. Yes, Easy Reader is correct. Dark Horse, A.
Congratulations, Easy Reader. You are getting a gift card to Midtown Comics. Shoot us an
you
email, and we will get that to you. What is the secret movie you were paying?
Of course, we're talking about the 1980 acclaimed movie, Ordinary People.
That is an acclaimed movie. That's correct.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Great. All right. As we all know, new comics come out tomorrow. Lots of great stuff coming
my
out,
God,
some of
so
which
much
we've
great
talked
stuff.
about already. But Pete, what are you looking forward to?
The Tin Can Society, #1.
Interesting pick.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it, bro.
Wow. All right. Going to be.
We're going to be getting into some fights, bro. We're going to be getting into some fights.
Me. Well, I'm really interested. I've been really enjoying Helen of Windhorn. The new issue is coming out from Dark Horse Comics. There you go, by Tom King and Bilquis Eveley, the team behind Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So that's pretty great. Also, let's see, what else can I throw out there? Oh, Guilt Frame #2 from Dark Horse Comics. That's written by Matt Kindt and his mom, Margie Kraft Kindt. Art by Matt Kindt, and is a fun, wild mystery series with some great Matt Kindt art, so really looking forward to that. A bunch more stuff. Also, Absolute Power Super Son is coming from Sina Grace and Nicole Maines, and that is really diving into the psychology of John Kent in this Absolute Power event that every single one of us have been loving.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true.
Should be
Destro #4 is also really good.
I knew it. I was going to call out Destro just to block you, but I decided not to. Anyway, those are all going to be in our Stack podcast, which drops Wednesday at 9 a.m. in the Stack feed and the Comic Book Club feed. So check that out. And folks, that is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Fred Van Lente and AJ Ampadu for coming on to talk about Resurgence of the Valiant Universe. #1 is coming out tomorrow. Check that out. Darick Robertson and Stephen B. Jones for talking about Greaser Gemini Blues. And Erica Schultz for talking about everything that she's doing.
Oh, my, yes.
So many things. Check out everything from her, one of our favorite authors. We have another packed show next week. James Asmus and Jim Festante are going to be back on the show. Yeah, good friends, good guys. Talk about their new run on Survival Street, their Dark Sesame Street riff. Angel Fuentes is going to be back on the show to talk about everything from Petico Press. Nice. And Sal Crivelli is going to be back on the show to talk about a backup story in Dynamite's new Terminator book. Cool. Also, Comic Book Club News, our comic book podcast. Check that out every day of the week, Monday through Friday. You can subscribe and support all of these podcasts, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, or the app of your choice. At Comic Book Live on Twitter/X, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram and TikTok, comicbookclublive.com. For this podcast and many more, until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourself out there.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to support Stray Bullets Shift.